All right, hey everybody. We're the last presentation, so I'm happy for all the people who made it. No pun intended. And yeah, so we're the co-founders of Hapi Finance, and we're going to be talking about what happens when you die. So yeah, this is the team. We're the disciples of Osiris in our Discord, so we'd love to come have you hang out and look into what we're doing. There's going to be a QR code at the end. I'm Karthik, and this is Samraj. And yeah, so the sad reality is one person dies every second, so we have to think about this stuff. So what happens today when you die? Basically, hopefully you've written a will. You die. Your executor files papers in your local probate court. Your relatives and creditors are notified of your death. And the executor must find and distribute all those assets manually. And the thing about this is, like, obviously in the centralized world, you can go to a bank, there are a bunch of back doors, and this will be figured out whether you have a will or not. But it also can take 6 months to up to 3 years in the worst case to get those assets to your loved ones. So it's definitely a problem. And you might be thinking crypto solves this, but there are a lot of problems as well. So now you don't write a will, but you write down your passphrase on a piece of paper. You hide it somewhere. Again, you die eventually. And your loved ones end up going on a treasure hunt. They may or may not figure out how to use your ledger or Trezor. Good luck. They see your woofy LP token. And they give up and walk away. So you must be thinking, there has to be a better way. And there is.
So yeah, there is a better way that we just came up with at Hapi, and I need a clicker. It is a smart contract will. So this is an example of a decentralized will contract that is owned by Cindy. So Cindy has made a will with Hapi, and this will verifies her proof of life through a check-in system, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It holds the state of her beneficiaries, so the set of people who will inherit her assets, and she could add, remove, or change splits at any moment. And it also has approvals for her different tokens or different NFTs. Now, basically, if Cindy's proof of life fails, the contract will distribute all the assets to her parents, Go and Sarah, for 20% of them, Michael for 30% of them, Wendy, her daughter, for 40%, and maybe the Leukemia Research Foundation for 10%. Now, these assets are actually transferred directly to the beneficiaries. So we don't actually hold the assets at any time. There's no custodian. So the will contract basically proctors the assets as they are transferred and directly distributed. So how do we actually know that you're dead? That's a good question. Basically, we're establishing something we're calling the proof of life, which is a dead man switch. Essentially, you're checking in with us on chain at a cadence that you set up for us. That could be like 2 weeks, it could be 6 months, it could be like 6 years. On average with our customers, we're seeing about 6 months. And we decided that this is the only way to really decentralize the proof of life and not be reliant on any other organization like a hospital or a local court. And otherwise, we'd have to be reliant on oracles, which we don't really want to do. We want to basically just make it all in your hands and not reliant on anyone else. But we're also planning on making this composable, so we could actually, yeah, this is a fusion. I like this GIF, this is my favorite one. But basically, we're planning on taking the entire proof of life out into a separate smart contract that has an interface for, like, a check-in system or whatever else, like it returns a Boolean if they're alive or dead. So basically, any talented developers can hop in and make a more sophisticated check-in system. So if that seems interesting or appealing to anyone here, hit us up. We'd love to talk. And how do we actually introduce new features? As you guys know, smart contracts are immutable, so that seems to be a little bit of a problem with what we're building. So let's look at the traditional way to do it in Solidity, which is upgradable contracts. So essentially, you have a proxy to an implementation, right? A delegate calls, like contract A could call contract B within the context of contract A. So message sender, message value, and all the state changes actually happen on contract A. So basically, implementation holds the logic, and the state is held in the proxy. But this is, actually, let's go over here. So essentially, when you go to a new implementation, your proxy points at the new contract, and this old contract still has an address somewhere, but it's no longer in the ecosystem or the architecture of us. So from all intents and purposes, that is just somewhere in the ether. But this is kind of a massive problem when it comes to like decentralized wills, because we have approvals for your tokens. So theoretically, it could be really dangerous to have an upgradable contract, because we could just put in anything over there and like switch out the logic on users, and that's really dangerous. So we came up with a concept called opt-in upgradability, which introduces a registry. So the registry holds each of the different versions that we can have, like let's say V1, V2, V3. And the registry can basically send the implementation that a current user is on. So user 1, like Cindy from earlier, could be on version 1, and maybe Karthik could be running version 3, whatever. And basically, the registry will get the address of whatever implementation they're on and route the code all the way to that implementation logic and whatever. And what this does is we literally cannot change the implementation logic for a user. They have to explicitly opt in for whatever code is being run on their will. So it makes it so it is completely up to their power for what is included in their will. And let's say they trust us a lot. They could give us permission to basically just keep on up versioning them to the most current version, but you have full control over what is actually being run. And yeah, I'll pass it back to Karthik, but we'd love to get some questions from you guys.
And I got a mic. But yeah, before we get to questions, basically go ahead and scan this QR code. We're onboarding people every day, so we'd love to have you have a will. Right now, we only support ERC20 tokens, but NFTs are coming soon. And actually, if you look to the right, we made a little NFT for everybody here. Just jump into our Discord. You'll see that in the bio of the Twitter link that this takes you to. And go mint one. There are 69 of them, and you can only mint them for the next 24 hours. So yeah, grab one. It's close to free. The cheapest I was allowed to make them is $2. Yep. So any questions?
Yes, that is correct. So basically, whenever you check in, we're going to take whatever the difference is of your tokens and get approvals for those new tokens. It can, not for upgrades, but it can get a little bit pricey. But we tend to just get approvals for like a little bit more than the token value that you hold, just so like we can cover it and you don't have to like reapprove the same type of token. Anything else? Yes.
Not yet. So we onboarded our first 2 customers a week ago. So they are still alive. If we lose our keys? Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely a big problem. Right now, if they lost their keys, basically they would miss the check-in, and those assets would go to the beneficiaries they set. So hopefully those are still people they trust.
How do you think about this being different from intentionally being a safeguard if you lose your keys?
Yeah, that's definitely something we think about, and obviously we've built technology that could solve that as well. But right now we're seeing that nobody really has a plan for death, and it's something people start to think about, so that's the wedge. But yeah, it could definitely be used for safety as well.
Yeah, so what happens if, like, say somebody died, they have an NFT, and they want to will it out to, like, 3 different people, so they get 33% of the assets. But that NFT can't be divided, but the value of it is going to be more than 33% of their total assets. What do you do?
Yeah, so right now, like I said, we support ERC20, so those are obviously divisible. Once we do NFT support, the very first version of it is you're just going to pick one person. After that, we're going to make it so you can just pick which NFT goes to which person. Obviously, we get more advanced with like fractionalizing or something, but you know that's not on the roadmap yet. Yeah, we've thought about that, but we also don't want to mandate what a user should use. So we think the kind of nice thing about being a smart contract is that with any wallet, including Argent, you could sign and create a will, or even something more complicated like a multi-sig. So we didn't want to have to make a new wallet that you have to move all your assets into. You can just keep doing what you do today.
Are the destination wallets visible on Argent?
One sec. Oh yeah, there we go. No, you cannot see what beneficiaries anyone else has. Only like the owner of that will can actually see who their beneficiaries are, right, out of design, because otherwise that'd be kind of dangerous. And also expanding on beneficiaries a little bit, I don't think we mentioned this, but when you add a beneficiary in our UX, we can actually set it up with Magic Link. So if, like, let's say you have, like, my girlfriend does not know anything about crypto, right? And if I wanted her to inherit some of my assets, like, she would just sign up with her email and password. It would make an Ethereum wallet for her through Magic Link, and she wouldn't have to know a single thing. And after I were to die, she would be able to go to our platform and automatically liquidate that into like whatever currency she wants, or not have to know a thing about crypto or learn anything.
Yeah, definitely. So in the future, we're thinking of doing something with NFTs and passes. But for our early beta users, we're just charging $300, and people seem to be fine with that.
Well, how do you prevent your beneficiaries from murdering you and taking on crypto?
Good question.
We might have to find referrals for a security detail, but it's not something that we deal with right now.
Like if you had an insurance policy and then you're murdered by this person that benefits from it, obviously they wouldn't benefit. So have you thought about any sort of way to handle that kind of situation at all?
Yeah, we have thought about that. I mean, if obviously these things can become contentious, then people you have on your will. So right now, the owner can remove those people at any second, right? Unlike something traditional, they don't have to call us, so they could just remove them if there's something in contention. But if it was a secret desire to murder you for all your money, yeah, it's something we think about, but we don't have a solution today.
How complex can the will get? So obviously, right, actually connecting it back to the Pro App NFTs, sometimes people want to set up a trust for someone and they have to meet certain thresholds before that wallet becomes unlocked. Is that type of fusion something that could be built into the original contract?
Yeah, so we've actually played around with building trusts before. We did trusts with Superfluid at one point where you could actually stream assets to somebody every second, even if you're alive or whatever. Like, it's pretty interesting. But in terms of that, it's a little bit later down the roadmap, and we're planning on making like a lot of things composable. So when it gets to a certain level of sophistication, we can support however like sophisticated anyone wants to get, or even down the road, just make it so people can upload their own smart contracts and use that on top of our like basic deadman switch. I think there's a question there.
Did you say that the beneficiary addresses are not visible?
Yes. So,
Can you talk about how you do that?
what do you mean?
So the beneficiary addresses are not visible in the contract.
Yeah, so only the owner of the estate has like access to see that state, if that makes sense. So the estate holder, like they are actually the one who does the transaction to add the beneficiaries. So anyone who has, like, nobody can send a transaction to the smart contract to actually see whose beneficiaries are who, unless they are that estate holder.
But if I know the address, can I go look at that state on chain?
No, you cannot, because like you would, that state on chain would, you would only be able to like have access that function if you were the owner. Otherwise, it would just fail. If that makes sense.
Is it encrypted on chain or?
Think so? Yes. I'll double check, but like I have all the encryption stuff there. Yeah.
Because if it's encrypted on chain, then you probably need the private key to decrypt the data, unless you have some other way to decrypt the data when the person doesn't check in.
That is correct. Yes. We'll talk afterwards, but we've thought about this like a good amount, and like I would love to actually hear more about like the security part, right? Anyone else? Good?
All right, I think we're good. Thank you.